Welcome to the show. Welcome to Your Thought Life podcast. I am your host, Michael Anderson. If you haven't already, do take the time to leave us a rating and a review. We most certainly appreciate this act of kindness as it really signals to the algorithm that you enjoy the show. And as a result of that, it will then share this show with others who have never seen it and they're searching for this style of content. Thank you again, and we certainly appreciate your love and kindness. Today, we're talking about silencing your inner critic to hear your inner guide. Have you ever noticed how the loudest voice in your head isn't always the kindest? Today, as we look at this topic, we want to understand the interlude and the dialogue so that we can begin to understand more specifically who's talking and why. So it doesn't matter whether you're dealing with self-doubt or overwhelm or overthinking or persistent inner criticism. This episode is going to help you to understand fundamentally what's going on, and it's going to give you some practical application tools that you can use right out of the gate to start to bend this in your favor. There's an abundance of research on this topic, but specifically from the Harvard Medical School, there's research that shows that the average person has between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day. And the study indicates that up to 80% of these thoughts can be negative or self-limiting. Dr. Kristen Neff's groundbreaking research on self-compassion reveals that when we trust ourselves with the same kindness that we show our good friends and family members, our stress hormones decrease and our motivation actually increases. The psychology principle at work here is called cognitive restructuring. It's the process of identifying and challenging negative thought patterns. Because when we understand that our thoughts are not facts, but rather mental events that we can observe and change, we gain tremendous power over our emotional well-being. And like it or not, some of us are living life on a day-to-day basis predicated on mean comments toward ourselves and the emotions that ensue as a result of us believing those comments. Maya Angelou once said, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change your attitude. That's what we want you to begin thinking about and wrestling with today. This wisdom speaks directly to our ability to choose which voice to listen to and amplify in our minds. And yes, there's more than one. But your inner critic developed as a protective mechanism. We've been talking about this in a low-grade series for quite some time now to really burn this into your being. More often than not, this inner critic and the work that it's doing to protect us is often rooted in childhood experiences and societal expectations. But here's what's so fascinating about this family. That same mental space can be transformed into your greatest source of encouragement and wisdom. The keynote here is to learn to distinguish between the voice of fear and the voice of truth. And somewhere in between there, you're going to get tools that's going to help you to achieve that end. Let's talk about the tools now. Pause and label technique is our first tool in the toolkit for today. This is going to help you to transform your inner dialogue. When you notice negative self-talk, pause and literally say, thinking or judging, and this simple labeling creates distance between you and the thought. Because to take the time to label it also stunts the automatic behavior that would typically follow, and it gives you an opportunity to step outside of the pattern so that you can make a different decision. Moreover, the labeling serves as a reminder that you are not your thoughts. It puts you in this sort of observer mode where you can begin to now start thinking about this with some left and right boundaries. It doesn't get to just be whatever lands and however it lands. No, you're doing some analysis on it. That's number one. Number two is the idea of cutting yourself some slack. We led in talking about how this inner critic that we will accept because it sounds like us and is originating from within us. And as such, if it's mean, we accept it as such and we feel the corresponding feelings that come with that critical voice. And so, what I'm going to tell you today is to immediately stop allowing that voice to be that way in your head. You can take charge. You can take control of this as well. When I say, I want you to ask yourself next time it happens also, would I say this to my best friend that was going through the exact same set of circumstances? And if the answer is no, then I simply want you to reframe the message with the same compassion that you would offer to your best friend or your loved one, someone you care about, and say, I'm not an idiot. I'm not less than. I'm not dumb. I'm simply learning and growing through this experience or through this process. No one knows everything, neither do I. This is an opportunity for growth. I feel like that methodology lands so much cleaner in our being and does not send us down that spiral, down that trail that leads to emotional involvement to the extent that we start feeling some kind of way because of what we have said to ourselves. This moves it an event that could potentially have harm if perceived as negative to a learning outcome. And when we switch it to a learning outcome, now it's all on the up and up. It's positive, it's constructive, and it's filled with love. Number three is we're going to do some fact check. We have to challenge the inner critic by asking for evidence. If there's a set of circumstances before you and they're going to take you outside of your comfort zone, they are presenting to you challenges that you have not successfully done before. All of that, the gap in the information and the understanding, your brain is going to go into protective mode and it's going to begin to create scenarios predicated on your past. And they're going to be hypothetical. They are going to be worst case. And that is not the setup that you need to go into this with. That is the protective mechanism at work. So instead, we're going to, again, challenge your inner critic by asking for evidence. When it says, you always mess up, respond with, show me the data. I don't want to just see one incident. I want to see a slew. I got that from my grandmother a long time ago. I want to see a slew of data points that showcase this. And let's just say, worst case scenario, that comes to pass. You are not the same person today as you were back when those things happened. You are in a growth mode. You wouldn't be listening to this style of content if you weren't in a growth pattern. So even if that turns out to be the case, you can reply back and say, I am not the same person. I am a growth-minded individual now, and we are going to do thus and so together. And even if that means doing it afraid, often you'll find that your inner critic is operating on outdated information or an isolated incident rather than the full picture of your capability and will not at all account for the growth trajectory that you've been on. I think knowing that is creating for you a high degree of liberty. At least it did for me. Let me tell you this, and then we'll wrap up. The truth is this. Beneath all of the noise and criticism, there's a wise, compassionate voice that knows exactly what you need to hear. The inner guide speaks in encouragement, possibility, and truth. It reminds you of your strengths, celebrates your progress, and gently directs you to the courses of action that are necessary. The inner guide is different than the critical voice. You've got to quiet things down to be able to hear it. You've got to get a hold of that critic and start doing life from a position of love, joy, and peace. And then the inner critic can be heard because the noise has been silenced. How long does this take? It depends on the person. For me, it took a long time. But I work with ladies, and ladies are able to almost switch this on in a couple of weeks. So everything we do in self-development, I'm going to tell you again, it requires practice. You need to be in the situation and do what I'm sharing with you to start to build muscle memory. Learning to access, right, the guiding voice, the positive thinking, and not going with the critical voice is a skill set that you have to develop. It's a heightened sense of awareness that you have to develop. But once you get there, it's a beautiful set of circumstances. You become more balanced. You're able to interact in the moment with realistic information. And you find that over time, the catastrophizing and the hypothetical thinking and the worst case scenarios just subside. That's not a part of you anymore. So this is where we need to be. Take these 3 practical application tips and run with them starting today. And I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. Feel free to connect with us through our Linktree link. It's available in the show notes. Yes, you are enough. You can do it, and you are uniquely equipped to realize your goals. Until next time, take care and keep pushing forward.